The message arrived on a cold afternoon just as Megan Turner stepped out of her office building. She read it once, then she read it again. Every word was so clear there was no way to misunderstand it. "I think it would be better if you didn't attend Thanksgiving dinner this year." The message was from Olivia, her younger sister. There was no explanation, no apology, just a decision that had clearly been made long before Megan ever saw the text. A few minutes later, her phone lit up again. This time it was Ryan, Olivia's husband. "The kids are getting older. They're starting to recognize people who have a positive influence and people who don't really have direction in life." Megan stared at the words for a long time. Cars moved through the crowded parking lot around her, but she could barely hear any of it. Because this was not the first time she had been looked down on. For years, Megan had always been the outsider at family gatherings. When everyone showed off photos from expensive vacations, they asked when she was finally going to buy a decent house. When Olivia talked about her perfect marriage, she often joked about her older sister still living alone in a small apartment. Megan's parents always chose silence. They called it keeping the peace. But Megan understood that it was simply another way of avoiding taking her side. What no one knew was that another secret existed behind that silence. When Ryan lost his job, Megan had quietly paid their rent. When Olivia's daughter was hospitalized, the medical bills were charged to Megan's account. When tuition costs for the children increased, Megan was the one who silently transferred the money. No one in the family ever mentioned it. As if her help had never existed. As if it were simply expected. Standing in the cold wind of late autumn, Megan suddenly felt a strange sense of peace. For the first time in years, she did not feel hurt. She felt tired. And sometimes, exhaustion is the first sign that someone is finally ready to let go. That evening, Megan opened her banking app. Her finger hovered over the screen for a few seconds. Then she pressed confirm. Every recurring financial transfer was cancelled. No announcement. No threats. Just silence. And no one in the Turner family knew that this silence was about to change everything. The change began only a few days later. At first, no one in the Turner family noticed anything unusual. The bills still arrived. Payments still needed to be made. Life seemed to continue exactly as it always had. Until Monday morning. Ryan was sitting in the kitchen when his phone vibrated. A notification from the bank appeared on the screen. The money he had been expecting every month had not arrived. He checked again. Then he checked a second time. The result was exactly the same. An hour later, Olivia called Megan. She tried to keep her voice calm. "Did something happen with your bank account?" Megan was sitting in her office. She looked out the window before answering. "Nothing happened. I just thought I should respect your decision." Silence filled the other end of the line. Olivia immediately understood what that meant. But before she could respond, Ryan grabbed the phone. He was no longer polite. He kept questioning her. Demanding explanations. Reminding her about the bills that were waiting to be paid. Megan listened quietly. For the first time in years, their financial problems were no longer her responsibility. 2 days later, her mother called. The disappointment in her voice sounded painfully familiar. "Why do you have to make everything so difficult right before the holiday?" Megan closed her eyes. For years, whenever the family needed help, her phone had always rung. But whenever she was hurt, no one called to ask if she was okay. "I only want to ask one thing," she spoke softly. "If I stopped sending money, would any of you still want me at family dinner?" The line went completely silent. A silence so long it almost hurt. Because sometimes the real answer is not hidden in what people say. It is hidden in what they cannot bring themselves to say. And in that moment, Megan finally saw the truth she had spent years trying to avoid. She was not a loved member of the family. She was simply the person who always appeared whenever someone else had a problem to solve. The moment that value disappeared, everything else became impossible to hide. 3 days before Thanksgiving, Megan sent one final email to the entire family. There were no accusations. No anger. Only numbers. Every payment was listed in chronological order. The rent she had covered during the months Ryan was unemployed. The hospital bills she had paid when Olivia's daughter was admitted for treatment. The tuition increases she had quietly absorbed year after year. The emergency transfers that arrived whenever the family found itself in trouble. The list continued far longer than anyone expected. At the bottom of the email was a total that left Olivia staring at the screen in silence. For years, Megan had contributed enough money to change the course of their lives, and she had done it without asking for recognition, without asking for gratitude, without asking for anything at all. That evening, Megan's parents called. For the first time, no one spoke about keeping the peace. No one claimed she was overreacting. No one suggested that she should simply move on, because for the first time, they were looking at the full truth, and for the first time, they understood who had been carrying the family through its hardest years. But by then, it no longer mattered. Megan did not ask for an apology. She did not ask anyone to take her side. She simply turned off her phone, blocked the calls, and stepped away from the conflict she had carried for far too long. On Thanksgiving morning, soft sunlight stretched across the quiet streets of Portland. While the Turner family gathered around a dinner table filled with tension, Megan spent the day volunteering at a local community center. She helped prepare meals for people who had nowhere else to go. No one there knew how much money she had given away. No one judged the size of her apartment. No one questioned the direction of her life. And for the first time in years, she felt something she had never found at her own family's table: respect, peace, and the simple feeling of being welcome. Standing by the window and watching the last autumn leaves drift across the courtyard, Megan smiled quietly to herself. She finally understood something that had taken years to learn. A real family is not a place where you have to pay for a seat at the table. A real family is a place where a seat is saved for you, even when you have nothing left to give.